Oh, let's get into this.
That's the intro.
Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. I am very fortunate to have on the channel today Mr. Cold Brew Gaming himself, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great, and I've been working on my team since the minute we closed off that stream.
Yeah, so as you guys don't know, we are in the middle of our Clan Boss Draft Challenge, and Cold Brew is one of the competitors, along with Hell, Hades, Scratch, and YST. We're doing interviews with each of them all this week, so we have one out with Scratch, we have one out with YST. I do recommend you go check it out, but today we're here with Cold Brew, and we're going to be doing another video on his channel, so after this one, make sure and go watch that one if you haven't already. But yeah, Cold Brew has quite the team here. He got the champion in this draft, I think, and it's going to be interesting how he pulls this out. So I figured what we could do is we can kind of go pick by pick through the draft, you know, get your thoughts on, you know, your selections, what you were thinking behind some of this stuff, and maybe some of the thoughts on some of the other people's draft choices, and then we can see if maybe we'll get a sneak preview of kind of what kind of team you're planning on building here.
Sure.
All right. So let's start it off. Obviously, the first pick went to Brogny. Now, we all knew that YST didn't have a Krisk. You had the second pick in the draft. Were you dead set on getting Krisk? Was there ever a question in your mind? And why is that the choice? I mean, I think probably the overall #1 champion in this game, but I would be curious to hear your thoughts on it, because these aren't all no-brainer things. You have to build a full team, and we got other people drafting champions, right? So
I think the way that the draft was actually stopped me from building the team that I wanted. And at the beginning I thought, oh, boom, Krisk, it's the obvious decision, right? But when you think about it, there's 5 other people who, with their picks, lock you out from that specific champion. You have to think of like 10 champions after that. Is that champion going to be available? And I realized it after the first pick, and I saw you guys picking. I was like, oh man, it's it's like I have a good roster of champions. There's only a few that I'm missing, so it wasn't an issue of not having champions like YST had. He had like a few champions available, so it made sense that he would pick Brogny. But for me, I could have picked Demitha, I could have picked Seeker, Lydia, any of the other champions that everybody said. But I think I picked Krisk so that I would build a team around him, and I thought I could build a team that would be able to surpass whatever everybody else picked, just because of how good Krisk is. But yeah, it didn't turn out as I wanted. After that.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I definitely went into the draft realizing, like, I need to have, you know, I play a lot of fantasy sports. I've been playing fantasy basketball for like 25 years or something ridiculous. So I have a lot of experience with that. And I've learned over the years that having a plan for the draft, targeting certain champions or, you know, players to make certain things work for you is pretty important. So I can imagine what that panic. I mean, you took more time on your picks than anybody else in this draft, and you could see I could see the panic on your face of like, oh God, who do I take now? It was great. It was honestly my favorite moment of the entire draft was watching your face throughout it.
You know why? Well, we can talk about the next few picks, but it's a sense of, okay, you're building something, you're trying to make a team, and it makes sense to be tanky because it's not going to be unkillable or block damage team. Like the one you're building, but then you're okay. Everybody's gonna be picking all the damage champions, and that's where I think I messed up in terms of my draft. I didn't pick the damage early enough so that I would.
It's a real balance.
A lot of champions I can make. Yeah. It's not only about surviving with your team the longest. If you can survive, 10 turns, 20 turns less, but do much more damage for the whatever amount of turns you survived, it's worth it, obviously. And I'll tell you maybe later which champion I really want to, like, after we talk about the other picks a little bit. and where
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
perfect transition. Let's keep going through it, because the next, I mean, the one of the hard parts when you pick at either end of the draft is you have a big wait until your next pick comes up. And so with the number 2 pick, you had to sit there and watch the next 6 champions go off the board. Were there any surprises in this? Because the next 6 champions, I took Demitha, Hell Hades took Lydia, Scratch went Seeker, and then he went Sir Nicholas, which I think was a bit of a shock for us. Valkyrie went next to Hades, and then I took Mashald. Was any of that a surprise to you? Were, those pretty much what you were expecting?
There wasn't really a surprise. Like with Seeker, if you're gonna get Seeker, there's some teams that you could build, but I didn't think that Scratch would go for a block down, a killable comp, a non-unkillable comp with Krisk and Lydia being taken, because then he would have had to pick Valkyrie basically to make something work, and he went for the idea of, okay, I'm gonna get the 50 turns team, as much damage as I can through that. I'm gonna lock 2 champions basically immediately, and you guys can do whatever you want. Basically, that was like a really smart decision to do, because he had that availability of two picks immediately.
Yeah, like, I agree. I was talking with him yesterday about it. It's an interesting conversation. Let's just say it wasn't as secure a choice as we all thought it might have been.
Right, really?
Yeah, definitely should go check that out. It was very. Scratch played some good mind games in this. He played some really good mind games. But yeah, that to me was shocking, and I thought a brilliant move going with that kind of unkillable team, because you're right. We all knew he had options when it came to that and making that kind of a team work, and that he was going to be able to, get those 50 turns and really stack the damage, especially considering, we do have that player power limit. Now, I should actually tell everybody, we've had to make some adjustments, because when we first started off, we had a player power limit of 300,000, which sounds like a lot for us with, max or nearly max great halls. It's actually not that much, and especially for teams like yours or Hell Hades or YST, where you have to build 5 champions to survive. It's really hard to actually build them up. I mean, you guys were trying to build teams without. I mean, even on my team, the unkillable one, where I don't have to put damage on half my champions. I had no rings. I had no banners. And it was just like I was trying to pull out every bit of resistance in my build as I could. So we upped the player power total to 350 for everybody, and I think that's going to make it a lot more, so we can actually showcase what one of these comps can do and make it a real competition, because I don't want to run away with it too easy. So
look, I did say before we even started the whole thing that you were going to be dead last, and I think that was my doom. It was karma. It was my karma to get this draft for me, but I just want to say that I've been doing the best I can with the picks that I did end up picking, and I've been changing everything around all the time. I've been switching around. The only champion that remained the same throughout was Krisk. Basically, I was getting one champion out, trying something else. I was trying the original 5, then switching one out, switching another one out, switching the gear on each and every one of them, switching the gear on Krisk. Yeah, I've tried so many different things.
One of the rules that I'm really glad we put in here was the ability to drop one champion and pick another one up, because it really gives you so much more flexibility while still kind of limiting you, right? Like, you still have to keep 4 of the champions you pick. So it's not like you can make any team out there, but it does give you the flexibility to try a couple things and really, fix any draft mistakes someone might or might not have made, and really just kind of, be able to build your team in a way that's going to be more successful in the long run. And I think that's been really good. And I think your team is perfectly situated to play around with that, because you had some interesting picks. I mean, if we keep moving down this draft, your next pick was Iron Brago, which in some ways I think is an absolutely brilliant choice, because he's going to be so good for this game. Not only does he give you that, not only does he give you increased defense for 3 turns, which means it will be up for the entirety of the fight, especially with Krisk extending, gives you that decreased attack. He deals good damage, but I think also most importantly, especially when we have this player power limit, he will add defense to all your champions, which means that that's a stat that you don't have to build as high, and you can start, putting those stats into other areas if you need to, right? Especially, with a survivable team like you kind of got going on here, that could be really, really important.
Right, right. And that's the idea behind everything that I've been building so far with this, is that I've been trying different combos, and I thought Iron Brago would be perfect, not just because of the defense up and the everything that he provides. He also does the decreased attack, which is kind of required because people might not realize that Krisk is not the perfect champion just because he has that on the passive. Let's say when the clan boss does the stun, that's a single target, and Krisk ideally shouldn't be targeted, and even if he is, he should not be stunned. So you gotta have a block debuffs. So that's the only way to apply the decreased attack, right?
Yeah.
With Krisk. So if you don't have another decreased attacker, then you're really in trouble, especially because you lose out the decreased attack. It's a 1-turn debuff, and then you'll be going into the next AOE without a decreased attack, and that can be like wiping you out.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting things with that, right? Like, the big issue is that Krisk won't have that decreased attack, but, everybody that goes after him in the turn order will benefit from his passive. But, you also got to figure there's always a 3% chance to resist, and if that resist comes at the wrong time, that's an early wipe for your team, and that's a bit of a problem. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. But we're in the test server, so we can run theoretically unlimited runs. And yeah.
So wait, but when you took Iron Brago, what was your thinking behind that? Because there were only 8 other champions off the board at that point, and you had one of them. So you had a bunch of choices going in this direction.
Yeah, that's right. I think Iron Brago, I could have maybe I think Turagi would have been a better choice to do the double ally protect just to survive a little bit longer. And Iron Brago would have been picked up, and I guess because of my gear and whatever Iron Brago has, I could have replaced it with something else. I think that was kind of a mistake going for Iron Brago. Even though Hades did mention he would have picked it, it was in his list.
Well, that's the other thing. It became like the stopper pick, which was, I thought, very fascinating because he's going to be great for your team, but it also prevented everybody else from getting him, which I thought was actually really good and kind of, low key, really important too.
I also had that in mind because I was competing for the killable teams with other 2 people, basically. Okay, for the champions that they will be picking. So I had to think, okay, what will they probably pick? Should I pick it now so they don't take it from me? Are they gonna pick what I want next before me? And basically lock me out also. And yeah, it was a total. You also have to remember all the champions that exist in the game. And I didn't write anything down, but I tried to remember, okay, what do I need next? And actually, I didn't pick what I actually needed through my picks. I really needed a double ally protection, I would say, to make the team survive way longer, especially with Valkyrie out of the picture. I would say that was the biggest mistake in my draft for the second pick. I could have gone with different champions there, and then let Iron Brago to be possibly a later choice.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't have a problem with that. I think you're right. I think there were probably better options at that point. But I think Iron Brago is like a low-key, really valuable champion that can, is a good addition to your team. And, the truth of the matter is there are a lot of champions out there. So it's not like you were, you don't have other options even after that too. So I think you're going to be fine with that. As it kind of went on, Turagi, who you mentioned, YST took, then Deacon Armstrong, and then you had a pick again. You get that almost back-to-back picks going number 2. So you went with Godseeker or Niri, and I mean, I know that really annoyed Hell Hades. That was worth it on its own. Was that the kind of pick that you were going for? Because obviously with the 2-1 ratio team using Krisk, there's really 2 ways to do it. You bring in another speed champion, or you bring in another buff extender. And you went the buff extender route, which I love. I think that's great. It helps everything kind of stay alive with the 2-1 ratio team. But did you consider, picking somebody else that could, increase your speed instead? Okay, who was on your list here?
No, what I considered was actually getting damage after that point. Because I knew that I had a team in my head, and the damage that I was looking for was going to be basically one champion, since the other champion I don't have, and wouldn't he could survive with a double ally protect. Draco
Sure.
would have been could survive with the double with ally protect and the defense up. Iron Brago's defense, extra defense.
Yeah.
That would have been a choice that I could have gotten. And you got Turvold. Turvold would have been great in a team with so many buffs, multiple extenders. That was my idea, okay? Multiple extenders so that buffs stack up across the board. And Turvold basically just hitting for crazy amounts. That was the team that I had in mind. And
so that's the one you wish you'd pick second if you go back and do it again.
Either second or third. Obviously, I don't know how everybody else would have reacted, but I don't think I wanted to get him second just because I didn't think anybody else would take him because he has that
the extra
the way
turn.
that he works. Yeah, the way that he works doesn't make it that easy for unkillable and block damage comps to make it work. Right.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, Turvold would have been really sexy on that team. That would have been real nice. Yeah. I've seen Victor TES do some really good work on stream with a Turvold and a Krisk extension comp. I think before we settled on Corpulent Cadaver, actually, that was like the champion he was testing a lot with, and it was very effective. So
and I actually had an extra copy. Also, could have done a +1. On the test server and actually do a little bit more damage.
Yeah. That would have been interesting.
Because after Turvold was picked, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna pick. It's gonna be all randomness from now. Just my mind was blocked. And all I could think of, okay, do I have an embarrassing picture or story ready for after this stream?
Oh, I love it.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know that feeling when you got your heart set on somebody, you know they're going to be right there, and then someone takes them right before you, and now you're on the clock and you're panicking. That is that's a wonderful moment. After that, we got after Godseeker, after you took Godseeker, right?
Right.
I want to make sure I got this order right. Yeah, so you took Krisk, then Iron Brago, then Godseeker, then I took Turvold right after that. So, maybe in reverse you'd take Turvold instead of Godseeker. Then Hell Hades took Sandlash, Draco went to Scratch, he took Ninja. Yeah, Draco Ninja, nasty picks. Hell Hades took Ursuga, which I think was a bit of a surprise to most of us. You don't usually think of Ursuga as a clan boss champion.
Yeah, I didn't think of it so much.
I went Fushan, and then you took Farrak and the Fat, which I think is a low-key, really nice pick. And, his passive ability is so good about mitigating damage for himself that he makes an excellent stun target, which is really nice if you can arrange that. And then he also brings, ally attack, poisons, decreased defense, and increased crit rate and crit damage buff for everybody, with considering the player power crunch and the fact that you have extenders on your team. That's a pretty clutch buff to bring into the team here.
That's what I had in mind in terms of he would provide HP burn, poisons. I didn't care about the defense down, obviously. The crit rate and crit damage would have held with the stats that I was trying to get on everybody. So because I had the 300,000 also in mind, and getting to the 300,000 would mean you would need to sacrifice stats, okay? And Farrakhan I thought would be a great option. The ally tag would give me more damage, and then that's what I had in mind. But again, if I had, let's say, Cardiel, maybe that would have been a better choice, because Cardiel also has a cleanse,
Cardiel's just ridiculous. Yeah, she has a cleanse and a block debuffs, and
it's crazy. Like I thought Cardiel would have been picked by Scratch, honestly, just for that added insanity in terms of damage and making it affinity friendly also.
Yeah. I don't think he has her though. I don't think.
I don't know. Can't remember if he.
I was surprised. Like, there's a couple champions that none of us have that are pretty awesome for this stuff. Like Tuhanarok, I swore was going to get chosen. And I was like, okay, nobody has it. All right. Did you consider taking somebody like? I mean, I think Farrak and the Fat makes just a ton of sense, especially after explaining it that way. But did you have any considerations about taking Mithrala in that kind of a spot?
No, because at that point I would have been too tanky and no damage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it would have made more sense to get something like a Geomancer, who would have provided not only the HP burn and the deflect, but also he reduces damage you take, and he has a weaken.
Yeah.
So that would have been another 25% damage
It's
to the whole
unfortunate
team.
because immediately after you, YST did just that and took Geomancer, which I agree was a great pick. That's kind of the one. That's who you're probably targeting for your fifth pick? But it ended up going Tyrant, and then you took Martyr, which I was shocked went this late, honestly, because I think when you're talking about end game teams, Martyrs in some teams is even better than a Valkyrie. If you can sustain anyway, Martyr hits so hard, brings that decreased defense in the counterattack and increased defense for your team. Even has a decreased attack, so just a lot of utility with her for
and she
teams.
hits pretty hard also.
Really hard, yeah.
In a high defense comp with Iron Brago, she hits pretty hard. Although you don't really pair her together with an Iron Brago for her for the increased defense, I would say, because it's just the overlap, and especially with an extension comp, you lose out on the utility that she provides. So that wasn't the best choice. If I could just pick the 5 champions, I wouldn't pick these 5. If I just didn't care about anybody else, like a Valkyrie would have done a much better job in this situation. You know, the bigger shields, protecting the whole team, and like a big problem of the whole team is that it doesn't have really a way to heal.
Oh,
like if you think about that, other than Krisk, who has the heal over time, to survive, it's pretty tough with Godseeker just doing that A2 and the A1. The passive helps a little bit, but it doesn't. The team cannot survive that long, and I've been testing so many different things to make that work.
Interesting. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about what your plans are with this team. Like, how is it that you do plan on making this work? Because as you said, you've got a couple issues here, right? There's no weaken on the team. There's no big heals on the team. I found Godseeker Niri to be pretty darn good at healing, especially when you can build a nice tanky team. But pairs much better when you have a big shield or something to kind of help with that.
Right.
And so just by yourself, maybe not quite enough. What are you looking at as far as trying to, optimize this sucker here for you?
The optimization of this team, I tried the first 5 originally, and then I thought, okay, I have the possibility to switch out someone. Who is it going to be? Right? Who is it going to give me that extra damage or extra survivability? Yeah. Who has to get the axe and get out of here? And as I said, like I kept Martyr and Krisk in all my setups, and the other 3 I switched around and tried different comps and different affinities. I was jumping around clans all the time because you guys were hitting, and you guys were hitting Force. There was Spirit, there was Void. Everybody was doing insane amounts of damage with the multiple keys that they were doing, and like by the time I was out of the clan boss switched affinity. So it was crazy. And yeah, we had the 300,000 limit, and my team was 330 without even optimizing it further with glyphs. I was unglyphed in most of my gear. I was like, oh well, I don't know what to do now. I'll start removing gear, and we ended up increasing the limit, of course. Yeah, and that helped out a lot in terms of I don't have that in my mind anymore.
Right. Well,
and I could play around with everybody's gear. And then I started switching around champions and thinking, okay, what should I do in terms of healing? What should I do in terms of damage? What gear should I put in on everybody? Because Krisk, with that specific setup that you're seeing right now, he's the only ally protection, right? Mm-hmm. That's a lot on Krisk. He will suffer. And, there's multiple sets you can try on Krisk. There's Stalwart. Yeah. There's Guardian, but Guardian just adds up onto the pain that he receives.
That's the problem, yeah.
So ideally you give it to somebody else to just mitigate a little bit, somebody that's tankier and would help, take away some of that burden.
Martyr, Iron Brago would be great examples of that. Even a Godseeker, yeah.
That's right. And I had to think of that, and then I thought, okay, and what about the tuning? I had to think of the tuning that's gonna work with those five, and then there's different tuning depending on what you want to do, and how the extensions are gonna go.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of
Timing
things,
those buffs. Yeah, it's technical, very.
lots of things to think about, and to make this work.
So okay,
And
I don't
yeah,
want you to spoil the team, right?
yeah, I don't want to spoil it either.
But can you give us a couple of the champions that you were, try list some of the champions that you looked at and have been testing with this team. You don't have to tell us if you're going to use them or not, but just kind of give us an idea of some champions that you thought about and approached on this.
So with I'll tell you the first one, because the first issue that I had in mind was, healing. Well, what am I gonna do after 30 turns or so, when it's gonna start to hurt a ton, and Godseeker is not gonna do the work, and
Not
it's
by
not gonna be
yourself,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I was trying to think. Okay, who is the most obvious OG choice for that? Who was used since forever for that?
Balthazar.
So you're right. Okay, I put him in the team. Okay. Who can I replace? I thought, okay, I'll replace what would have been the other poisoner and buffer, basically. So I replaced Firekid with that, and I was trying that out. It did work, but it didn't work as much as I would like. For just somebody who has just these 5 champions with Balthazar, it's perfect. But that's not what I was looking for, because I knew
you don't just have to beat the clan boss; you have to beat the other 5 of us, right? So that's a different story.
The clan boss is the easy. It's you guys that I have to compete with. But I already knew like we will see in crazy numbers. So I thought there's no way I can get to those numbers. But at least I'll do my best to build a team with what I've chosen, not just give up.
Yeah.
There's no point in competing when you give up, right? So I said, okay, I'll do my best and build the best thing that I can. And I started switching around champions, trying double ally protect comps with champions that had it already. And I'll just give you another example of a champion that I tried. I tried. Forgot his name. He was Nitrev.
Yeah, sure, Versulf.
Versulf. Yeah. I tried him.
Yeah, it seems like a logical choice. You're getting that leech, the increased defense, really good champion. Hits pretty hard too if you build him with damage, even as an ally protection champion. So
yeah, the problem with that was when I was building him, we still had the 300,000 limit. I was like, there's no way I can build him in the team. Because you barely put any gear in him, and he goes to like 70,000 power.
Yeah.
And I was just testing it out with 330,000 power, even so, just to see if it works, and it did work with the ally protection. I had to try to do a different tuning, so the ally protections are extended at the same time, so they're available on both Krisk and himself.
Right.
At all times, to protect each other so they don't suffer so much. And because of the leech, my team would heal. So yeah,
you're complaining the right guy. This is like my daily trying to deal with these champions, get it all to work with the 5-man team. It's very, very tough for sure. So
I would say I was out of practice in terms of these teams. And that's a reality, because Clan Boss has it's a 3-year thing that I've been playing around with, but I'm gonna say at least 2 years now, we are man-eater teams. All sorts of unkillable teams have just been taking over, and we no longer build these teams as often as let's say the man-eater teams, the Demitha teams, especially when she got out. And you made so many videos with different comps with her, and
it's almost
you
like
get out of practice of what you need and what you have to worry about when you're building these teams.
Yeah, I mean these. I feel like traditional teams are almost like a last resort now, because the unkillable teams are they and I think this competition is actually kind of showing that they're so much easier to build. They're so much and they're just as effective with a lot lower requirements for you to do it. I built my team in 30 minutes. and spent maybe an hour or two, tuning it a little bit.
Optimizing.
Yeah.
Optimizing
I have to go back at it, right? Like we said, we're not facing the clan boss. We're facing each other. But like for me, an unkillable team is like, once I got the speeds, there wasn't any question of like, how do I order it? Where do I put the, it's just like, no, now I just build the damage. And it makes it a lot simpler, as a headache kind of thing. But I love these traditional teams that you're kind of running here. I love trying to mess with Krisk, fit these champions into those comps. I think it's really creative, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who you actually choose when it comes down to it. It's gonna be real interesting. This is a fun competition. I'm real excited, and I keep telling people, like, everyone's like, oh, I have a lot of people, not everybody. I have a lot of people saying, oh, you got this.
I
in the
think
bag.
you'll be surprised at the champions I ended up with. If that's gonna be the ones I end up with, I'm still thinking of alternatives.
You still got time.
As we speak, even now, I'm thinking, can I push a little more there? Can I try this thing instead? Like, I was thinking all sorts of different teams with the 5 that I have, the 5 plus 1 basically, and then the plus 1 has to replace someone else. And I thought, okay, I said, I've been switching around champions all the time, and I'll do a more detailed video on my channel after the whole thing is over, just to explain it to everybody who's still interested.
Definitely. I think it's fascinating what when you have to use the champions that you have there, all of a sudden you start to really see, like, well, gosh, now I'm missing this or I'm missing that, and but this is what this team can do, and trying to optimize that, I think, is super fascinating. This is gonna be really interesting to watch. I'm really excited about it, man.
This is what I like about Raid. It's that when you are basically when they put you in a corner, in the sense of any kind, not just clan boss, you have, okay, I have these 5 tools. How can I use them to beat this challenge? And it can either be dungeons. I'm not going to talk about arena because that's broken right now, but it's mostly dungeons, faction wars, Doom Tower, and clan boss. That's the PvE environment where we face the challenges, right? And that's why I when we do the takeover, that's the challenge that we do anytime we log on. Okay, I have these 5. What can I do with those 5?
It is one of the best puzzle games you will ever play.
Right.
Right. I'm totally with you on that. Well, hey, guys, let's cut it here. We've been talking for a little bit, and I'm sure people are, getting tired of my voice at least. Guys, make sure I'm going to be on Cold Brew's channel, so come by. We're probably going to talk a little bit about my team. We'll talk about the drafts, of course. There's so much to talk about. It's what I love about this. Is one of my favorite things is this kind of approach with stuff. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Cold Brew, thanks again for coming on, man. Thanks for participating in this at all. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is like amazing. I love these kind of competitions all the time.
Well, we'll be doing them again, so we'll stick in touch on this one.
Redeem myself.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Big thanks again to Cold Brew for coming on the channel. It was a lot of fun talking with him, as it is with all these guys. They're fantastic. Make sure to check out that draft on Friday morning. That's 10 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UTC. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Make sure to go sub at Cold Brew's channel. He does amazing content, really does great stuff for the community. So you definitely want to go check him out there. And I'll have that link down in the pinned comment description of this video down below. Also, make sure to check out his video where we talk about Clan Boss. It was actually a really fun, lighthearted conversation. It was really cool, so you're going to want to go check that out. I'll have that linked as soon as that drops as well. Guys, till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.